For a long time, Cutthroat Island was considered the most disastrous film in cinema history. The film even made it into the Guinness Book of Records with this achievement. It was only pushed out of first place in 2012 by Disney's John Carter. However, John Carter is considered the biggest failure in history based on its total cost, which includes production budget and marketing expenses. When considering only production cost, perhaps the only film that can compete with Cutthroat Island is Eddie Murphy's The Adventures of Pluto Nash. The adventure film's massive failure marked the end of Carolco Pictures, one of the prominent Hollywood film studios known for Terminator 2, Basic Instinct, and Total Recall. In the mid-1990s, the studio was on the verge of bankruptcy and desperately needed a huge hit. At the time, Carolco was actively working on 3 projects: Showgirls, Cutthroat Island, and Crusade. Many believe that studio owners Mario Kassar and Andrew G. Vajna made the wrong choice. Among the 3 films, the historical action movie Crusade, directed by Paul Verhoeven and starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, required the highest budget. Instead of making the expensive, dark, and gory film, Kassar and Vajna decided to play it safe and produced the family adventure film Cutthroat Island, which was 2 times cheaper to make, and the adult drama Showgirls. The combined budget for both films was around the same as the budget for Crusade alone. As a result, Crusade was shelved. The producers intended to resume work on it as soon as the enormous theatrical success of Cutthroat Island and Showgirls allowed them to. The $15 million that the studio had already spent on pre-production for Crusade and in advance to Arnold Schwarzenegger was later included in the budget for Cutthroat Island. That is why the $115 million figure is often associated with the film, when in fact it only cost $100 million to make. Cutthroat Island seemed like a very promising project in its early stages. This film's lead role was originally intended for Michael Douglas, who was a major star at the time. The director was Renny Harlin, who had previously helmed box office hits such as Die Hard 2 and Cliffhanger. It's understandable why the studio owners made that choice. Schwarzenegger and Verhoeven were even bigger stars, but they were twice as expensive. Besides, a highly violent movie would have required a bigger budget and would have been more difficult to promote. According to Carolco executives, they went all in with Cutthroat Island. Kassar and Vajna even sold the majority of the rights to their other film, Showgirls, for $20 million and spent the proceeds on Cutthroat Island. The main female role eventually went to Gina Davis, who was known for her roles in A League of Their Own and Thelma and Louise. The studio was against casting Davis. Kassar and Vajna thought the actress was not fit to play an action role, but director Renny Harlin, who was dating Davis at the time and later married her, insisted on hiring her. When Cutthroat Island was released, this decision received strong criticism from many in Hollywood. Critics believed Gina Davis was unfit for the film, as she was in poor physical condition and looked downright foolish on camera. By the way, Davis got her role in Cutthroat Island after the cancellation of another pirate-themed project, Mistress of the Seas, where she was supposed to star alongside Michelle Pfeiffer. Paul Verhoeven was set to direct the film. The project fell apart because Verhoeven refused to cast Harrison Ford as the male lead. It didn't have anything to do with Ford, though. Verhoeven wanted the film to star 2 women, but the studio worried that it would inevitably fail without a big male actor. Perhaps it was Gina Davis's involvement in pre-production for another pirate film that influenced the studio's decision to cast her. Everything went downhill once production on Cutthroat Island officially began. Director Renny Harlin later said that the main reason Cutthroat Island failed was that Carolco Pictures was already dying before filming even began. According to Harlin, he spent over $1 million of his own money to rewrite the script because the studio could no longer afford it. Sensing something was wrong, Michael Douglas left the project shortly before filming began. The actor explained that he left because his role was significantly reduced in favor of Gina Davis, who was already married to director Renny Harlin at the time. Douglas said that when Harlin rewrote the script, he greatly diminished his character. Harlin and Davis had a different opinion. They believed that Douglas had simply left the sinking ship, as rumors of Carolco's problems had already spread throughout Hollywood. The producers and director couldn't find a suitable replacement for Michael. They even approached Mel Gibson and Keanu Reeves, but both declined the offer. Because there was no time to look for a new actor, the main male role was given to Matthew Modine, known for his roles in Birdie and Full Metal Jacket. All of these production delays caused the budget for Cutthroat Island to skyrocket, and the start of filming didn't make things any better. When director Rennie Harlin, who was working on the script and looking for a lead actor, arrived in Malta, he criticized all the scenery that had been built on the set while he was away. The film crew had to dismantle the set and rebuild it from scratch. Just a week into filming, actor Oliver Reed got into a bar fight with Gina Davis in Malta. Oliver Reed was infamous for his explosive temper, which was evident on nearly every film set he worked on. He even almost got into a fight with Russell Crowe on the set of Gladiator. Outraged by the incident, Rennie Harlin immediately fired Reed. In an interview, actor Matthew Modine said he doubted Oliver Reed could have hit a woman. He said that Reed, despite his love for heavy drinking and engaging in bar fights, never caused harm to women. Allegedly, the cause of the conflict was Oliver Reed's remarks about Gina Davis's acting skills. A little later, Harlin fired the film's camera operator, Nicola Pecorini, who had previously worked on Rules of Engagement and the Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus. Following that, over 20 crew members, including producer David Nichols, left the project to support the operator. To replace him, the studio quickly hired Oliver Wood. However, a few days into filming, he injured his leg, so the studio had to find a replacement for him as well. The replacement for Wood was Peter Levy, known for his work on Predator 2 and Judgment Night. Naturally, the atmosphere on the set, which was already far from perfect, turned into something simply terrible. Scandals and fights became a daily occurrence. Even the film's director got involved a few times. After a month of filming, Rennie Harlin and Gina Davis also wanted to leave the sinking ship, but were unable to do so due to their contractual obligations. It's easy to see why the studio couldn't prevent chaos on set and control Rennie Harlin and Gina Davis. Carolco Pictures wasn't a major Hollywood studio and therefore had a different approach to filmmaking. The majority of Cutthroat Island's funding came from independent investors. That is why, despite the studio's massive debts, the project was successfully completed and didn't collapse during production. While Rennie Harlin worked on his film, Kassar and Vajna traveled the world in search of funds. They quickly found investors in Japan and Europe, which wasn't too difficult given their reputation as producers of Terminator 2, Rocky, First Blood, and Total Recall. All the money was sent to Rennie Harlin in Malta, where he did whatever he wanted with no one to supervise him. Matthew Modine later said that Rennie Harlin and Gina Davis only drank a specific brand of juice on set, which was regularly shipped to them from America. By the end of the shoot, there were so many boxes of this juice that they filled several rooms and were served to all members of the film crew. Modine also criticized Rennie Harlin's decision to use 3 cameras for every scene in the movie. He said it required additional time to set up and install lights, resulting in missed deadlines and increased cost. Rennie Harlin explained the huge expenses by saying that it was important to show investors that the production was going smoothly and that no money was spared on the film. That is why they brought horses from Austria, carpenters from England, and stuntmen from Italy and Poland. In addition, the studio ordered over 2,000 custom-made costumes, more than 300 firearms, 600 swords, 300 daggers, and 100 axes, all crafted by top-tier companies. Harlin also insisted on constructing 2 full-size sailing ships, each costing $1 million, all to deceive investors and make a good impression. Because of frequent interruptions and reshoots, the adventure film's already substantial budget grew to $100 million. Carolco Pictures, which didn't expect the budget to exceed $60 to $70 million, filed for bankruptcy a few weeks before Cutthroat Island was released. Naturally, promoting the film was out of the question. There was simply no one who could promote it. Cutthroat Island grossed only $10 million when it was released in theaters. The failure didn't affect Rennie Harlin and Gina Davis's career much, which cannot be said about Matthew Modine's. He went from being a promising actor to just another average one. The actor always blames Cutthroat Island and Rennie Harlin for all his problems, claiming that Harlin only focused on Gina Davis and ignored everyone else on set. According to Modine, in all his films before Cutthroat Island, directors would spend a lot of time working with the actors, but Rennie Harlin never even approached him. Around the same time, Warner Brothers was working on a Captain Blood movie. When the studio executives saw the disaster of Cutthroat Island, they immediately canceled production and abandoned the film adaptation of Raphael Sabatini's novel. Hollywood studios avoided making pirate-themed films for nearly a decade. That is why everyone thought Disney was crazy when it spent $140 million on Pirates of the Caribbean in 2003. Adjusted for inflation, Cutthroat Island's budget today would be $170 million, with box office revenue of less than $20 million. This means that Carolco would have lost over $150 million on the movie. As for John Carter, the new leader on the list of the most unprofitable films, it cost Disney $200 million in losses. Thanks for watching. Subscribe and stay tuned.